as a country that bears the scars of underground war that lasted for decades. Gunfights and bombings were finally brought to a halt with an official ceasefire in 1998. Here, the worst years of bloodshed and violence are simply called the Troubles. And it was in these times that Robert was involved in terrorist activities.
The last time I was here would have been about 10 years ago. The wall wasn't as high, and we came out of the side streets on the other side. We were armed with AK-47s, and we opened up over the top of the wall, into the side streets, into the pubs, anywhere we could get. The wall was put up during a wee so-called lull in the Troubles. So they decided, we'll put this up, stop the two sides coming together, and hopefully it'll work. It never did. There's been more people killed here than there ever needed to be.
We have seen hundreds of bomb explosions. We've seen over 3,000 people murdered. And really, we have a legacy of hurt, of pain, of anguish.
Hatred. And hatred just burned us up and destroyed so many. I myself, I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been beat. Still here. But I'm here through one reason, because the Lord was with me and I didn't even realise it.
The Troubles were, in reality, a terrorist war. Local loyalists who sided with Great Britain were fighting the IRA. Republicans striving for a united Ireland. But the victims of the snipers, bomb blasts and ambushes were rarely soldiers. The Irish were killing each other.
I was part of a loyalist paramilitary organisation, the UVF, Ulster Volunteer Force.
As a loyalist, Raymond was the sworn enemy of the IRA, using their own tactics against them.
Being involved in murder attempts and causing explosions, shootings, and all sorts of other paramilitary activity. Some of my friends had been murdered. People who lived around the corner with me, who I'd grown up with, people that I knew and joined the security forces, they had been murdered by the IRA.
At 15, I joined the junior IRA, and you were involved in clearing the way for different attacks on the soldiers. We would have stood at the corner and kept watch for the soldiers while the gunmen were getting ready.
Michael was a Republican. His young life was dedicated to fighting both the Loyalists and the British security forces.
I was involved in armed robbery, drugs, kidnap. We just lived and robbed and ate and slept and went to prison,
I was trying to hurt these people because I saw them as the enemies of my country. I just was wanting to fight this so-called war in Northern Ireland, and I was happy to do that. I had no time for God. 2 15-year prison sentences for 2 attempted murders, 14 years for conspiracy to murder, 13 years for causing explosions, 13 for possession of explosions, and so on. So altogether, I ended up getting 379 years.
Raymond's background is not unique in the prisons of Northern Ireland. Some have committed even more gruesome crimes. Yet many have been lifted clear of their past by the power of forgiveness in Christ.
In 1988, I went to church in London and decided that I would give myself up and admit all the wrong that I'd done. I met Raymond in prison. I knew he was a bad boy. I knew he was a loyalist paramilitary, he was heavily involved. But he'd become a Christian in prison.
And so I got on my hands and knees in the police cell and asked God to come into my heart and just forgive my sins, to take over my life, and that's what he did 15 years ago.
I learned that God was at work and that he was the only answer for reconciliation. When I seen Loyalist and Republican prisoners praying together in Maghaberry prison for peace. That made a big impression on me. It meant to me that God was at work.
We would meet together and we would show that through Christ there was reconciliation, and there was forgiveness, there was hope, and there was unity. And so we would find ourselves spending time together, people from both sides. And so God's love and forgiveness was seen in a very practical level.
Well, these were men from both sides who were engaged in very direct terrorism, killing, shooting and bombing. There was a bitter hatred between both sections of these people. And that was the wonderful thing, that God was able to touch hearts and change motives of men in prison in a way that the ordinary person just couldn't do.
The heart of Prison Fellowship is a real desire and longing to share the love of Jesus with men and women in prison.
We've had the opportunity of bringing men again from different backgrounds, from different faiths and from none, to a table where they sit down and just study the Bible together.
So we're going to turn to the scriptures now. In the Bible study today, we had men from both sides of the fence. We had people who were involved with Republicans in their past, the IRA kind of side of things, and we'd also people who are from a unionist side, a loyalist, like UVF side, meeting together and sharing God's love and forgiveness to each other. One of the problems of getting released was, do I go back to my old friends? Do I go to the pub? How was I going to get on in this new Christian life outside? That's where Prison Fellowship came to my rescue.
My last 6 months in prison, I worked in the PF Centre, and that got me my break from the paramilitaries. Because I don't doubt it, if I hadn't come to the Lord, I'd probably be dead by now.
If it wasn't for God, I would not be where I am today. In fact, I would probably be dead.
It's not just Raymond, but you know, a lot of the guys that I met in prison, who's the Lord touched their lives and changed them. To me, they're miracles, but they're also symbols of hope.
Really, this is only possible through the work of Jesus. When these men have experienced God's forgiveness, they have realized that the most important thing in their life is not their political nationality, but really that they are members of God's kingdom.
There's times I sit and ask the Lord, why couldn't I have been saved when I was 9 and just had a quiet life?
I'd love to see this here coming down, all this here disappearing. Hopefully one day it will.
The only answer for the country here is, for true reconciliation, will come from Jesus.